Welcome to Teolumen Insights, where we reveal the hidden forces that shape the way you live and show you how to use them to create real transformation and supercharge your health, mindset, and daily life. Here are your hosts, Emma Greenwood and Nathan Sinclair.
Welcome back to Teolumen Insights, everyone. I'm super stoked for today's deep dive. We're going deep into Thoth, the Emerald Tablet, and the secret to immortality.
Yeah, this one has been requested like crazy. And today we're going to try to be super comprehensive. We're going to be exploring all these different perspectives, mythology and philosophy, and yeah, maybe even like some out there theories.
So to really understand the Emerald Tablet, I think we got to understand Thoth first, right? Who is this ibis-headed deity? I feel like we've all seen the image, but maybe don't know the full story.
Right, like most people know the image. So Thoth is an Egyptian god, usually depicted with that ibis head, but sometimes he's shown as a baboon too, and he's associated with like wisdom, magic, science, even illusion, but it's deeper than just a list of attributes, you know?
Right.
The ancient Egyptians, they saw all these aspects as like interconnected. It reflects this worldview where like knowledge and power were like super intertwined.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's not just like a random collection of powers,
Yeah.
but it's reflecting like a deeper understanding of the universe.
Right, exactly.
But how do all these different aspects of Thoth's nature actually play out, like in the myths and legends?
Well, like in the myth of Osiris and Horus, you know Osiris, the god of the underworld.
Yeah.
He's murdered by his brother, Set. And Thoth, as the god of wisdom and justice, he plays a crucial role in like the trials that happen after. He ultimately helps to restore like Osiris's son, Horus, to his rightful place.
Wow.
So it's interesting how Thoth kind of mediates between these powerful forces like life and death.
It's like he represents that balance, that order in the face of all the chaos.
Yes, exactly. And then there's this super interesting detail about Horus's left eye.
Okay.
So it gets injured in this fight against Set. And Thoth, he restores it. Now, the left eye, it's associated with the moon.
Right.
And Thoth is often linked to lunar symbolism, you know, through that ibis imagery. So we see this like weaving together of mythology and symbolism and even cosmology.
Wow. It really makes you think about how much depth there is to all these ancient myths.
Oh.
Everything seems to have this symbolic meaning, this connection to a larger cosmic order.
Absolutely. And this emphasis on order, on like cosmic principles. It's also reflected in Thoth's title, Lord of Divine Words.
I was just thinking about that. Does that just refer to like hieroglyphs, or is there more to those divine words?
That's where it gets interesting. So while Thoth is definitely associated with like writing and language,
Right.
some scholars suggest divine words refers to like a deeper concept, like language as this creative force, the power of like sound and vibration to actually shape reality.
So it's not just about writing things down, but it's about that inherent power of language to like create and transform things.
Exactly. Like think about those magical formulae in ancient Egyptian texts.
Yeah.
They were considered to be divine words, imbued with power, right? And Thoth, as their master, is seen as the one who understands and can wield that power.
Whoa, that's pretty mind-blowing. It makes you wonder what the true potential of language could be beyond just, everyday communication.
Yeah. It raises some really interesting questions.
Yeah, it does.
And speaking of creation, some sources actually portray Thoth as like a creator god himself.
Really?
Yeah. There are like parallels drawn between him and Ptah, the chief creator god in some Egyptian creation myths.
So Thoth isn't just a keeper of knowledge, but also like an active participant in bringing things into existence. That's fascinating. What's interesting is some even say Thoth's heart is the source of this creation. What's that all about?
So the ancient Egyptians, they believed the heart was like the seat of the soul, the source of like thought and emotion. So in this context, Thoth's heart represents like his divine will,
Right.
his creative intention. And through his utterance, through the divine words, these creations manifest.
Wow, that really adds a whole new layer to that idea of like speaking things into existence. It's like the ultimate power of manifestation.
It really challenges us to rethink our whole understanding of language and its potential.
For sure.
And this kind of brings us to like one of the most enigmatic aspects of Thoth, the Emerald Tablet.
The Emerald Tablet. It's been shrouded in so much mystery and speculation. What can you tell us about it?
So the Emerald Tablet, it's this text attributed to Thoth. It's supposed to contain like this ancient wisdom and the secrets of the universe,
Right.
including, some say, the key to immortality.
Ooh.
But its origins and even like its material form are debated. Some claim it was like inscribed on this emerald that fell from heaven. Others believe it was found in Thoth's tomb. And the earliest known versions of it only appear in like Arabic texts from centuries later. And then those got translated into Latin.
Wow.
So there are many layers of translation and interpretation to consider.
Okay, so right off the bat, we're dealing with a text whose history is like as mysterious as its content.
Oh, yeah.
No wonder there are so many different interpretations out there.
Absolutely. But despite all these variations, there are some recurring themes and concepts that offer clues to its deeper meaning.
Like what? I'm curious to hear what secrets this tablet is holding.
One of the most famous lines from the Emerald Tablet is, "As above, so below."
Yeah, I've heard that one.
This encapsulates the idea of the interconnectedness of the universe.
But what does that actually mean? It sounds very mystical, but how does that play out in, like, our lives?
So it's the principle that the microcosm reflects the macrocosm.
Okay.
That the patterns and laws that govern the universe, they're also reflected in our own lives, in nature, even in like the smallest atom. So by understanding like the workings of the universe, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and vice versa. It suggests we're not separate from the cosmos, but intimately connected to it.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this connects to the idea of Thoth as this mediator, bringing that balance, that order.
Right.
But what about the secret to immortality? What does the Emerald Tablet have to say about that?
Well, that's where we got to delve into the realm of alchemy and spiritual transformation.
Ooh.
The Emerald Tablet doesn't offer some literal recipe for like living forever. Instead, it speaks more about the process of inner alchemy,
Inner alchemy, what does that mean?
of refining the soul and aligning it with the divine.
So it's like turning lead into gold, but for the soul.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. It's about taking the base matter of our being, like our flaws, our limitations,
Right.
and transforming them into something higher, something more refined and aligned with our true nature.
So it's not about escaping death, but about transforming ourselves while we're alive. That's a very different way of thinking about immortality.
Exactly. And this process of inner alchemy is closely tied to the idea of spiritual immortality, a state of transcendence that goes beyond the limitations of our physical bodies.
So we're talking about like the soul, the essence of who we are, continuing to exist even after the body dies. But how do we even achieve that? What's the path to this spiritual transcendence?
That's what we'll continue to explore as we go deeper into the Emerald Tablet and the mysteries of Thoth.
Well, I can't wait to unpack that further. And for our listeners, don't forget to like and subscribe to Teolumen Insights for more fascinating explorations of ancient wisdom and esoteric mysteries. We'll be right back with part 2 of this deep dive into Thoth, the Emerald Tablet, and the secret to immortality. Welcome back to Teolumen Insights. We're continuing our deep dive into Thoth, the Emerald Tablet, and the quest for immortality. Before the break, we were talking about spiritual immortality and the idea of inner alchemy, right?
Yeah.
As suggested by the Emerald Tablet.
Yeah, this whole idea of inner alchemy, it's so central to understanding the Emerald Tablet. Like, it's not about physical transformation, you know?
Right.
It's about refining, perfecting the soul.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is that process of, like, rectification, as the Emerald Tablet calls it? What does that actually look like? Do any of our sources give us any clues?
Well, the Emerald Tablet itself is pretty vague on the specifics, but a lot of interpretations draw parallels to the alchemical process of transmutation.
Alchemy. Like turning lead into gold. I thought that was more of a medieval thing. How does that relate to spiritual transformation?
Yeah, so the popular image of alchemy is all about transforming base metals into gold.
Yeah.
But like the deeper essence of alchemy, it lies in the transformation of the soul. It's about taking that raw material of our being, like all of our flaws, our desires, and refining them into something pure and divine. This process of like purification, elevation.
So it's like taking the lead of our imperfections and transmuting it into the gold of our true spiritual selves.
Exactly. And this process, it involves this deep understanding of the universe, its laws, and our place within it. It's about mastering our thoughts, our emotions, our desires, and aligning ourselves with the cosmic order, which brings us back to that idea of as above, so below.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? Is there anything in the sources that suggests how we can even embark on this path of inner alchemy?
Well, the Emerald Tablet, it stresses the importance of knowledge, especially esoteric knowledge. You remember how Thoth is called the Lord of Divine Words?
Yeah, it's not just about language, but about understanding those hidden principles of creation, the secrets of the universe.
So studying these ancient teachings, these divine words, is a way to gain the knowledge necessary for transformation.
Yes, but it goes beyond just intellectual understanding. It's about experiencing these truths directly, internalizing them, and making them like a part of our being.
So it's not enough to just read about it. We have to actually live it, embody these principles in our daily lives.
Precisely. And this process of embodying wisdom, of integrating it into our actions, our very being, it's seen as like this crucial step towards spiritual immortality.
Now, I'm curious about the idea of Thoth as like a guide on this path to immortality. Our sources depict him not only as a keeper of knowledge, but also as a psychopomp.
Ah, yes, the psychopomp.
You know?
That term might be a little unfamiliar to some listeners. In many cultures, the psychopomp is like a guide who leads souls through the underworld, the realm of the dead. So it's like Thoth is a guide for this life and the afterlife. He helps us navigate the mysteries of both realms, leading us towards spiritual enlightenment.
Exactly. Thoth's connection to the afterlife, his role as like a guide for the dead, it adds another dimension to his association with immortality.
Yeah.
He's not just concerned with the physical realm, but with that journey of the soul beyond death.
That makes me think about, like, what happens to us after we die? Do our sources offer any insights into the afterlife?
The Emerald Tablet itself, it doesn't give specific details about the afterlife, but a lot of interpretations draw on ancient Egyptian beliefs. Remember how we were talking about the weighing of the heart against the feather of Mat?
I remember the image, but I'm not sure I understand what it represents.
So Mat, it's the Egyptian concept of truth, justice, and cosmic order.
Okay.
And in the afterlife, the heart of the deceased was weighed against this feather of Mat.
Right.
If the heart was lighter than the feather, it meant that the person had lived like a just and virtuous life, and their soul would go on to a blissful afterlife. But if the heart was heavier, it was devoured by this like fearsome beast, and the soul faced, well, a less desirable fate.
So it's like this cosmic court where our actions are judged and our souls are sent to different realms depending on the outcome.
Yes, and Thoth, as the god of wisdom and justice, he's often depicted as a scribe in this judgment scene, like recording the verdict. But within this framework of spiritual immortality and inner alchemy, this judgment, it takes on a new meaning. It becomes less about punishment and reward and more about like the purification of the soul. It's progress on that path of transformation.
So even after death, that quest for spiritual immortality, it continues. It's like this eternal journey of evolution guided by the wisdom of Thoth.
And this journey, as the Emerald Tablet suggests, it's not without its challenges. The text talks about overcoming obstacles, facing like trials and tribulations along the way. There's that line about like separating the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross. It sounds like it's talking about discerning between what's essential and what's not, purifying our souls from like impurities.
It reminds me of that like classic hero's journey,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like descending into the underworld to face their fears and emerge transformed. Is that a fair comparison?
Oh, absolutely. This descent into the underworld, this confrontation with our own darkness, it's a crucial step in that alchemical process of transmutation. It's about facing our fears, our limitations, and like transmuting them into something higher, something more refined.
So it's not about avoiding the darkness, but about confronting it head on, using it as fuel for our transformation.
Exactly. And this transformation, it's not just about personal growth, you know? It's about contributing to the evolution of the universe as a whole. The Emerald Tablet talks about working with the great work, aligning ourselves with the cosmic plan.
So we're not just like isolated individuals striving for personal enlightenment. We're part of something much larger, something interconnected. And our individual journeys, they contribute to the evolution of consciousness itself.
That is a powerful concept. It suggests our actions have this ripple effect, impacting not only the world around us, but even the cosmos as a whole.
It makes you think about the importance of living a life of purpose, aligning our actions with something greater than ourselves.
And this idea of co-creation, of participating in the divine plan, it can be this huge motivator for those seeking spiritual immortality. It gives meaning, purpose to our lives, connecting us to something timeless, eternal.
This is all super fascinating, but before we get too far ahead, I want to go back to something we mentioned earlier, the idea of a brotherhood of initiates. What's that all about?
So the Emerald Tablet, it alludes to this brotherhood of initiates, a community of souls working together toward enlightenment. And this idea, it resonates with a lot of esoteric traditions,
Okay.
which emphasize the importance of like finding like-minded individuals who can support us on our spiritual journey.
Makes sense. Like having that community of support can be so crucial, especially when you're navigating such a complex, challenging path.
Absolutely. Sharing our experiences, our insights, even our challenges with others who understand the path, It can be so valuable. It helps us stay motivated, accountable, and connected to that larger purpose.
But with all this talk about spiritual immortality and transformation and the afterlife, I have to ask, like, what's the point of it all? Why strive for spiritual immortality in the first place?
That's a question each individual has to answer for themselves. But for a lot of spiritual seekers, the quest for immortality, it's not about escaping death, but about embracing life in its fullest sense.
So it's not about clinging to our physical bodies, but about expanding our consciousness, connecting with something greater than ourselves.
Exactly. Spiritual immortality, it's about transcending those limitations of our ego, aligning ourselves with the divine, and becoming like vessels for universal consciousness.
It's about experiencing that fullness of our being, that interconnectedness with all that is.
And this experience of oneness, of unity with the divine, it's seen as that ultimate goal, the true meaning of immortality.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive, but there's still so much to explore.
Indeed. The mysteries of Thoth and the Emerald Tablet, they seem to just deepen the more we explore them.
For our listeners, be sure to join us for part 3 of this deep dive, where we'll go even deeper into the continuing relevance of these ancient teachings and how they can actually guide us on our own journeys of spiritual transformation.
We'll also discuss some practical applications of these teachings and how we can incorporate them into our daily lives.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to Teolumen Insights for more captivating explorations of ancient wisdom and esoteric mysteries. We'll see you back here soon. Welcome back to Teolumen Insights listeners. We've been on quite a journey, exploring the mysteries of Thoth, the Emerald Tablet, and the quest for immortality.
Yeah, it's been so fascinating, right? Delving into mythology, symbolism, even the very nature of the soul.
We've covered a lot of ground, but in this final part, I want to bring it all home.
Okay.
What does this ancient wisdom mean for us here and now? How can we actually apply these profound teachings to our modern lives?
That is the question, right? It's easy to get lost in all these abstract concepts, but the real power is in that practical application. The Emerald Tablet, with all its mystical language, it offers some surprisingly down-to-earth advice.
Okay, I'm all ears. What kind of practical advice can we get from this ancient text?
One key takeaway is the emphasis on self-knowledge. The Emerald Tablet, it encourages us to visit the interior parts of the earth. It's an invitation to explore our inner world, become more aware of our thoughts, emotions, and motivations.
That sounds a lot like that ancient Greek saying, know thyself.
Exactly. It's this timeless wisdom, and it's an ongoing journey, not a destination. It requires that honesty, introspection, that willingness to confront our shadows, those parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden.
So it's about acknowledging our imperfections, our fears, and working to transform them into something higher.
Precisely. It's not about striving for some unattainable ideal of perfection. It's about accepting ourselves, fully, flaws and all, limitations and all, and working to become the best versions of ourselves.
It's about embracing our wholeness, both the light and the shadow. That makes sense. But how does this inner work connect to the larger picture, to that concept of as above, so below, that the Emerald Tablet keeps emphasizing?
That's where it gets really cool. As we deepen our understanding of ourselves, we also gain a deeper understanding of the universe and our place in it. Like the microcosm and the macrocosm, they're reflections of each other. So by transforming ourselves, we're also contributing to the transformation of the world around us.
That's such a powerful thought. It's like that ripple effect,
Yeah.
Our individual actions, they can have such huge consequences, no matter how small.
And this interconnectedness, it highlights how important our intentions are. If we want to see a more loving, compassionate, and just world, we got to embody those qualities ourselves,
It's about walking the talk, aligning our actions with our values. So self-transformation isn't just about personal growth. It's about contributing to a larger collective evolution.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another takeaway from the Emerald Tablet, the importance of purpose. The text talks about working with the great work, aligning ourselves with the cosmic plan.
So it's about finding our role in the grand scheme of things, our contribution to the unfolding of the divine plan. But how do we find that purpose? It can feel so overwhelming.
It's a process of discovery, of exploration. It often involves following our passions, listening to our intuition, and paying attention to the synchronicities and opportunities that life throws at us, being open to new experiences, allowing ourselves to be guided by something bigger than us.
It's about trusting that there's a plan, even if we can't see the whole picture. And that leads us back to Thoth, the Lord of Divine Words,
The keeper of knowledge.
Right. And that reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge isn't just some intellectual exercise. It's about expanding our consciousness, opening ourselves up to new perspectives, deepening our connection to, like, the mysteries of the universe.
It's about cultivating that childlike curiosity, that wonder that keeps us learning,
Yeah.
growing throughout our lives.
Exactly. And as we continue to learn and grow, we might find ourselves drawn to explore different spiritual practices, traditions.
Mm.
The Emerald Tablet with all its cryptic symbolism, esoteric teachings, it's inspired so many different interpretations and adaptations through history.
Like from alchemy and hermeticism to like modern day esoteric groups and new age philosophies.
And this, like, diversity of interpretations, it's a testament to the richness, the complexity of these ancient teachings. There's no one right way to understand or apply the Emerald Tablet.
It's like this multifaceted gem reflecting different aspects of truth depending on how you look at it.
Exactly. And this open-endedness, it kind of invites us to engage with the teachings in a personal and meaningful way, to explore different perspectives, to find what resonates with us, and to create our own unique understanding of this path to spiritual immortality.
It's about taking these ancient teachings and making them our own, integrating them into our individual journeys of self-discovery.
And ultimately, the quest for spiritual immortality, it's a journey of the heart. It's about cultivating love, compassion, wisdom, and expressing those qualities in how we interact with others.
It's about recognizing our interconnectedness and striving to create a more just and harmonious world.
And that, I believe, is the true legacy of Thoth and the Emerald Tablet. A call to awaken to our highest potential, to embrace the fullness of life, to contribute to the evolution of consciousness itself.
It's such an inspiring message. One that transcends time and culture and speaks to like those deepest longings of the human spirit.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Thoth, the Emerald Tablet, and the quest for immortality.
It's been such an incredible journey, and I really hope our listeners have found it as enlightening and thought-provoking as we have.
We encourage you to continue to delve into these mysteries, on your own. There's always more to discover, more to learn, more to experience on the path to spiritual immortality.
And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to Teolumen Insights for more deep dives into captivating topics. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep exploring those infinite possibilities that lie within you. This is Teolumen Insights, signing off.